Okay.
Hi, my name is Maria Termini, and the title of my story is Toys in Pampasoico. As a Peace Corps volunteer in Bolivia, I visited villages outside the big city of Sucre. I usually did presentations on hygiene and sanitation to encourage habits that could keep food clean and people healthy. Today, I was going to Pampasoico and would do something different, make toys. The educational experts at my agency decided toys were important because they helped infants better develop their senses with textures, colors, and shapes. I certainly agreed. Pampasoico was in the middle of nowhere and wasn't even on a map. The villagers are isolated from the modern world and have no electricity. They struggle to grow potatoes and corn in the short rainy season. They raise chickens for eggs, goats for milk and cheese, and sheep for wool. Getting to Pampasoico was a bumpy 2-hour ride on narrow dirt roads, barely scratched into the mountains. I was with 2 Bolivian co-workers, Aurora and Artemisia, who were nurses. We sped out of Sucre at 8. Our driver used the trip to train for the Grand Prix. He drove as fast as he could and sped up on the tight hairpin turns. The Jeep pitched my stomach around and I tried not to throw up. Luckily for us, traffic was light and only a few herds of skinny sheep dared to share the road. At last, we roared up a steep hill and stopped at a small school. The driver dropped us off and sped back to Sucre in a cloud of dust. He would return the next day. I looked around and saw a few eucalyptus trees and adobe houses scattered on the dusty mountains, and that was it. Aurora and Artemisia led the way. We moved our sleeping bags, my guitar, and materials into the one-room schoolhouse. About 30 women with small children and babies were waiting for us. Many had walked great distances. These women all wore traditional polleras, pleated skirts that went to their knees, and heavy hand-knit sweaters, and broad-brimmed felt fedoras. I, on the other hand, dressed more simply in jeans and a hooded sweatshirt. These women wore sandals with no socks, even though it was chilly. In hiking boots and socks, my feet were still cold. All the women had aguayos, squares of brightly striped fabric, which they used to bundle potatoes, food, and babies. I had no such flashy accessory and used a beat-up red backpack with a broken zipper. These women looked alike, with thick black hair in 2 long braids, dark eyes, and copper-colored skin. They are of pure indigenous blood, and Quechua is their mother tongue. My co-workers were bilingual in Spanish and Quechua. I knew just a few words. One word I knew was wawa, which means baby, and sounds like a crying baby. Aurora and Artemisia quickly set about doing vaccinations and dispensing antibiotics. I put out some bags filled with scraps of cloth. The women gathered around me and we got busy making dolls. These women had great manual dexterity from using their hands in weaving and knitting. The day passed quickly as we cut out doll parts from the cloth scraps using cardboard patterns. Then we stuffed them with bits of cotton and joined them together. The women embroidered faces on the dolls and added yarn for hair. We also stitched pieces of colored paper and tinfoil together to make eye-catching mobiles. We were playing ourselves as we worked. Laughter and giggles filled the air. I knew these women struggled with tough living conditions, and making toys was a new experience for them. Some of the women sat on wooden benches, and the rest of us were on the brick floor. The babies were safe in the center of the room, crawling around on thick wool blankets. By nightfall, the women had set up a kitchen in the courtyard with a single kerosene lamp for light. A big pot boiled over a wood fire. Bats flew around above, but left us alone. Soon, everyone was served a bowl of thick soup with chicken claws and a huge quantity of potatoes. I gave away my chicken claw to an eager taker because it looked too much like a human hand for me to be comfortable eating it. I also gave away most of my potatoes, which are the staple of the Bolivian diet. I had been served a very large portion, 12 of them, which I couldn't possibly have finished. After dinner, the mothers nursed their babies. I played my guitar and sang the one song I knew in Quechua, which the women appreciated. Then I moved on to songs in Spanish and some blues. Soon the women wrapped themselves in heavy wool blankets and went to sleep on the floor with their babies, and children snuggled next to them. I cocooned in my sleeping bag as the cold mountain air settled around us. It was harder for me to get to sleep as I was used to a bed, a pillow, and heat. I had no time to dream because soon a rooster crowed. I woke up in the pitch dark, but everyone else seemed to be still asleep. I waited until I had enough daylight to pick my way over the sleepers to the latrine. I stayed outside and watched the fading crescent moon drop below the horizon as the yellow sky changed into light blue. The babies awakened with soft cries. The women wandered out to the faucet in the schoolyard, where they washed their faces, dampened and combed their hair that dropped below their waists. Their hair was as straight as mine was curly. I watched fascinated as they rebraided it, always the same, 2 long braids with a middle part. I listened as they chattered in Quechua, which mixed with the morning song of birds. We connected with smiles and gestures. I pointed to myself, then my belly, and held up 2 fingers to communicate that I also had 2 children, twins, Iskay Wawas, 2 babies. Soon, hot chocolate was served, along with still warm bread in warm rolls. By mid-morning, I decided to show the women how to keep food clean without running water. I used some large drawings I brought with me and pantomime. People here have to walk long distances to a spring and then carry the containers of water home. Running water could help them be healthier. Many of them have never seen a shower, a flush toilet, or a bathtub. Making toys was surely an easier reality than building a water system. We worked into the afternoon, making more toys. When we dangled the mobiles over the babies, they stretched their tiny arms towards the bright colors and smiled. Around 4, the Jeep returned. We waved goodbye to each other and sped back to the city. It was fun working with the women in Pampasoiko. I hoped their babies would be healthy, grow up, go to school, learn to read, and learn about staying healthy. So life will go on in Pampasoiko, seemingly unchanged for so many centuries. Water will continue to be scarce and dirty. Nothing will change overnight, but I do know this: for days to come, any breeze will twirl the bright colors on the mobiles, brightening up life a little for the children there. Thank you.